A plain-spoken Midwesterner Ron Johnson, senator from Wisconsin, joins me now. Good morning, Senator. How are you?
I'm doing great, Hugh. Hope you are too.
I am. Tell us about your reaction to President Biden's the red setting speech last night.
Well, it wasn't exactly unifying and healing, was it?
No.
Just the setting is frightening. It's just dark. I was on the platform and President Biden gave his inaugural address. He took his oath of office, I think 8 times during that speech. He said his number one goal was unify and heal this nation. And now he's done everything but that. Both Obama and Biden as a candidate said they're going to fundamentally transform this nation. Hugh, I often ask, do you even like, much less love something you want to fundamentally transform? And of course, now we're seeing what that fundamental transformation looks like. It's open borders. It's 40-year high inflation. It's record gas prices, rising crime, the indoctrination of our children. Here we are in America in the year 2022. We don't have enough baby formula to feed our infants. So they're fundamentally destroying this country. And now he gives speeches like that, designed, literally designed to divide this nation, exacerbate the huge gap when this nation needs healing. As President Lincoln said, that a house divided cannot stand. This division weakens us. It emboldens our enemies. The Biden administration, Democrat governance has been a disaster for this country.
So, Senator Johnson, my comment was that the red setting speech was a disaster for him politically. It was clearly a political speech that was designed to divert attention from his record and try and make the election about Donald Trump. So I want to talk about his record with you. But first, you're running against Mandela Barnes. Now, John Fetterman is the single most radical person on the ballot for the Senate this year. But I think the silver medal goes to Mandela Barnes. This guy is out there.
Oh, he definitely is. And I don't know, I might have to challenge you on that one.
Yeah.
He has been behind every last one of these radical policies. And of course, he supports all of the disastrous policies that have given us, these disastrous results. So no, he's a radical leftist. He's the guy that founded, for example, the Wisconsin chapter, the Worker Families Party, which is a pretty radical left group. He's for defund the police. He actually wrote the bill in the Wisconsin Assembly to let criminals out without bail. And he's doubled down on it. This is even after the Waukesha Christmas Parade massacre. That murderer was out on low bail. So, no, he's a radical leftist. I think you'd give Fetterman a real run for his money.
That would be interesting to get an objective assessment, but I have not got the time because neither of them should be near the United States Senate. Let me run down the 6 issues. Inflation, affordability, the cost of heating this winter, crime, borders, education, and the student loan debacle. Did you notice, by the way, Senator, President Biden did not mention the student loan debacle in his speech last night? Last Thursday, it was the greatest thing he'd ever done. A week later, he won't even mention it.
Well, they have to be getting the kind of reaction I'm getting. People are really outraged by it. Folks that have worked hard all their lives, never went to college, and all of a sudden that debt burden is going to be transferred onto their backs. People who did go to college, took out loans, sacrificed, scrimped, and saved, and paid those student loans off. They just feel like chumps now. So there's an awful lot of outrage, and this just further proves that the Democrat Party has become the party of the elite. I hope a lot of Democrats, moderate Democrats, start waking up to the fact that their party, this is no longer the party of JFK, who, quite honestly, would have been one of the more conservative senators in the Republican conference were he alive today.
Senator, my guess is that they panicked at the White House and at the DNC after the student loan debacle became clearly a political loser, and they threw a Hail Mary last night, and it was a flutter. And Penn State beat Purdue.
That could be, but, it's just exactly who these people are. What they want to do is they want to buy votes. They want to make more Americans dependent on government. They want to grow government and its control over our lives. I don't understand it, but I do understand how disastrous it is. We're $30.8 trillion in debt. We are mortgaging our children's future. That debt burden puts all of the high priority programs like Social Security, like Medicare, like veterans benefits, like defense of this nation. That's what puts those programs at risk. And unfortunately, Democrats and too many Americans are just whistling past the graveyard in terms of the debt that we are adding to the backs of our children.
Not one word about the Afghanistan collapse a year and a day after we skittered out of Afghanistan and that country descended into darkness. I'm not surprised, Senator Johnson, but did he owe it to? I had a Gold Star father call this morning, talking about how this is the commander in chief and he's worried.
Now, that'd be what I always call the embarrassing and dangerous surrender in Afghanistan. What do you think emboldened Putin? In addition to all these other actions, all the other policies that have been so disastrous for America and have weakened it, that type of surrender in Afghanistan further weakened America in the eyes of our adversaries and emboldened them. I do not believe that Vladimir Putin would have invaded Ukraine, committed his atrocities and war crimes if Donald Trump were still in office. But with Biden, he's got a track record. As Bob Gates said, that he's been wrong in every foreign policy in the last 40 years, last 4 decades, and that string of being wrong is unbroken.
Oh, yeah, he's added a couple of more years to it since then. Okay, Senator Johnson, when I bring up the student loan giveaway, I'm told, but you guys voted for PPP. I did like PPP. I thought PPP was necessary. How do you defend the deficits under President Trump and when the Republicans were control against the spending under President Biden, both the reconciliation, not the infrastructure bill, that was bipartisan, not the CHIPS Act, that was bipartisan, but the latest reconciliation, and what is between $300 billion and $1 trillion in student loan forgiveness?
Well, first of all, the pandemic was once in a lifetime type of event, and we were certainly in danger of having just economic collapse. Now, I argued against the shutdowns. I think it's been proven that they did not work. We shouldn't have done it. They were very unwise. They certainly shouldn't have been extended as far. But we had to do something fast. We had to do something massive to signal the markets that we weren't going to allow a collapse. We weren't going to allow a financial contagion. Now, I voted for the first CARES Act. I kind of held my nose because we started debating that at $750 billion, but within a few days, really, that ballooned to $2.2 trillion. And I stopped voting for the COVID relief bills because every time we'd have a new one, there's about $1 trillion left unspent. So
Yes.
my point to people is, when you ask for bipartisan action, be a little careful because it is true. We're very good at doing a bipartisan basis in Washington, D.C. as mortgaging our kids' future. But distinctly different. We were shutting down businesses. The government was shutting them down. And we needed to reimburse them for that type of shutdown. I would have done it a different way. I would have targeted the relief differently and better, as opposed to just shotgunning it around the economy. So again, I'm not a real supporter of everything we did during COVID. Certainly in terms of the trillions we spent, I think we way overspent. But it's completely different than what we're doing here with the student loan program, which is again just transferring the debt burden from one group of people who entered into those debt arrangements voluntarily and putting on the shoulders of people that had no hand and certainly didn't benefit from that debt whatsoever.
So, Senator, about Mandela Barnes, did he have a position on the lockdowns? Did he have a position on the violence of 2020? The summer of 2020, one of the most violent in the United States since 1968 to 70. Both the lockdowns and the violence. What was his position? How's it contrast with yours?
Well, we had some violence right here in Wisconsin, Kenosha. And after the first day, certainly he and our governor basically incited more violence. Mandela Barnes called that police action, which was justified. The police officer has been cleared. This is an individual who's going to basically kidnap his, children. He had a knife in his hands. He called that a vendetta, a police vendetta against a black man, basically. So he just further incited the violence. I'm sure he did not speak out about the more than 570 riots, that sprang out of about 8,000 protests. I'm sure he'd been right there with Kamala Harris pushing the bail funds. Remember, he wrote the bill in Wisconsin that would have let violent criminals out of jail without bail. So, I am, in terms of shutdowns, our Governor Evers was all about more government control, but fortunately the Republican legislature took him to court and ended his emergency power. So, Wisconsin recovered quite well because we weren't shut down for very many months.
So let's conclude on the border, the southern border. Of course, Wisconsin is a border state, but it's the northern border. It's the southern border, though, that is, it's genuinely existential crisis to a country not to have borders. It's no longer a country if it doesn't have a border. And I don't think we have a border on the southern border.
Listen, with the flood of deadly drugs coming into every city in America, every state is a border state. Now, I just had local sheriffs talking about, they used to have to try and shut down meth labs. Not anymore, because the meth is just flowing so freely and it's cheaper and in larger quantities out of Mexico. The fentanyl that is murdering, that is killing and poisoning our young people. I know the border is a disaster. It's galling that we get Secretary Mayorkas in front of our committees. He won't admit it's a crisis. He won't even admit it's a problem. He tells me, no, Senators, a challenge. No, it's a crisis. I had Martin Morgan, former head of CBP under both Obama and Trump, and Brandon Judd, the head of the Border Patrol Union, up for an event. And together we've pretty well figured about 3 million people have been led into this country, either been encountered, we don't even call it apprehension anymore, been encountered, processed, and dispersed, or as known and unknown gotaways in just the number of months that Biden's been in office. And to put that number in perspective, Hugh, 3 million people, that's a number larger than the population of 17 states. And you're not calling that a crisis, combined with the deadly drugs, and then just the human depredations of the human traffickers, the sex trafficking. It's horrible. These are some of the most evil people on the planet. I calculated about $18 billion based on a briefing is what we are putting into the pockets of some of the most evil people on the planet. That's the business model the Biden administration is facilitating. It is a crisis. It's harming everybody.
Last question, Senator Johnson. You've known Joe Biden for a long time. He presided over the Senate when you've been a senator for 12 years. I don't believe he has dementia or a medical condition, but I do think he's infirm. I think he's 80 years old. Is he different from the Biden you first met?
Yeah, he's way more feeble. Joe Biden, when I met him, was a friendly individual, gregarious. In my former life in the private sector, he'd be everybody's sales manager. He's not the same guy, and I mean the angry speech, the anger that bubbles out of him during these events. I think he's a changed personality, and I do not think he's really running this country. I think he's got a bunch of radical leftists that are part of his administration. I mean, the people he's nominating to these positions, for example, we have an eco-terrorist that spiked trees. I mean, that is a deadly type of activity. That's a felony. The Democrats confirmed her to be the head of the Bureau of Land Management. So, I mean, that's just one example out of many of the radical leftists he's surrounding himself with, and that's what's happening. They are fundamentally destroying this country with their fundamental transformation of it.
And Mandela Barnes wants to do more. Senator Ron Johnson, keep coming back. Good luck in the campaign ahead, and great to talk to you again.
Ron Johnson for Senate.com. Have a great day.
Ron Johnson for Senate.com.